We board the Humbers from a stairwell on a small water-level platform at the stern of the ship. Each Humber can hold a total of 8 people, 7 passengers sitting along the sides, and a staff member handling the outboard motor in the rear. It generally takes 2 trips by each Humber to get everybody transported in turns from ship to shore. The tour leader, Peter Butts, is operator of our Humber, and he warns us that when we get to the beach, we may have to do a little wading to get up above the waterline. The settlement where we are landing is a small fishing village inhabited for at least part of the year by a few Mexican fishing families who eke out a precarious existence catching fish and lobsters and collecting abalone shells. This sheltered cove offers a relatively calm place for members of our group to disembark. The beach is covered by small stones and brightly colored abalone shells whose pearl-like luster sparkles luminously in the early morning sunlight, as displayed by this welcoming Mexican boy. The villagers respond in friendly fashion to our informal greetings of Buenos Dias as we pass along among the simple dwelling places. We divide into 2 groups and set out to explore on foot this desert-like island washed by ocean breakers. It is most famous as a breeding ground for elephant seals, and we soon come upon a female with her black-skinned, newly born calf. The famous 19th century whaler Charles Scammon wrote that among the varieties of marine mammals which periodically resort to the land, no one attains such a gigantic proportion as the sea elephant. It is the male or bull elephant seal which grows to such prodigious size and gives the species its name. It reaches up to 16 feet in length and can weigh as much as 3 or 4 tons. The proboscis of the adult male is a unique appendage resembling in appearance a foreshortened elephant's trunk. The male inflates this monstrous nose to make loud honking sounds which appear to be related to mating and to fighting with other males for dominance. At one end of the island, we find an elephant seal nursery on a narrow beach crowded with mothers and newborn calves. We're almost deafened by the constant cacophony of cries from hungry pups and nursing mothers as they jostle for position. Seals like these can only move on land by undulating, hunching their bodies along. In another part of the island, in the water beside some high rocks, we find a big bull raising his inflated nose to make a challenging, honking sound. Then we see 2 bulls fighting each other in the surf, slashing their teeth against each other's throat. This kind of male combat occurs frequently, as the bulls vie for lordship over a mating harem of females. This wide-eyed female is one of a dozen or so cows kept to himself by this self-satisfied bull. At least temporarily, his rivals seem to have been conquered, and he can lazily oversee his flock of females from this rocky throne. On the way back to our landing beach, we climb a hill overlooking the bay and get a fine view of the 3 San Benito islands grouped triangularly around the open anchorage in the middle, where we can see our boat in the distance waiting for our return. After the excitement of this first land excursion, it is nice to just relax, looking out over the ship's rail as we now continue our journey southward. Our next destination is to be San Ignacio Lagoon, one of the famous Baja gray whale calving and mating grounds. The waters of these large Mexican lagoons, even in midwinter, are comparatively warm and shallow, and they provide an ideal protective setting for gray whale mothers to bear their calves and then nurse and nurture them for several months. The sunrise on day 4 is heavily overcast, but our spirits are raised by a pair of pelicans as they fly by, alternately flapping and gliding just inches above the surface of the sea. There are several young naturalists aboard, keeping track of all wildlife encountered, whether bird, fish, or mammal, and enriching our travel experience with informative observations about nature's incredible variety of wonders. Before reaching the lagoon, we are again treated to a soul-stirring visit by a group of dolphins. It is endlessly fascinating to lean over the bow rail and watch their sleek and graceful bodies effortlessly coasting along on the underwater waves created by the ship's prow pushing the sea along out in front of it. One member of our party prides herself on the array of patches on her jacket, attesting to the variety of other nature cruises she has already been on. When we do arrive at San Ignacio Lagoon, we again take turns going out in the small humbers while our special expedition's mother ship, the Pacific Northwest Explorer, remains anchored in the middle of the shallow bay. From the surface of the somewhat choppy sea, the ship looms like a giant above us. But our mission today is to search for living underwater giants, and the humbers fan out in different directions to see who will be the first to spot a spout and see a whale. Actually, our first cetacean encounter turns out to be a pod of Pacific bottlenose dolphins. These dolphins, the kind that Flipper was and that many marine parks display in captivity, are quite large with tall, sharply curved dorsal fins. They can reach 10 or 12 feet in length. Here in the wild, they swim slowly and deliberately among our little boats, as if aware and appreciative of our peaceful intent. Suddenly, we see a large spout, and we realize that now we are also in the company of a great whale. And look how close the big, long back is to the people in that humber. Seeing whales up close like this from the surface of the water is a mind-blowing experience. And look sharply here, because now we have found and are following a giant gray whale mother accompanied by a brand new baby bobbing to the surface just to the left of her. We can see the mother underwater raising her great broad back to the surface, and then to the left the black-skinned baby comes up for a quick breath also. What a breathtaking sight this is for those of us trailing them in our little humber. A gray whale can grow up to 45 or 50 feet in length, 4 or 5 times the length of our small rubber boat, and may weigh as much as 35 tons. Even a baby is 15 feet long at birth. For nearly a year, it depends on its mother for milk, nursing underwater. Occasionally in this lagoon, gray whales known as friendlies will of their own accord come right up alongside one of the small rubber boats and allow themselves actually to be touched and stroked by human hands. This did not happen to us, but as the humbers return their passengers to the mother ship, we feel deeply gratified at having been privileged to share such close space with so many of these magnificent water wonders. That afternoon, as we continue our journey southward from San Ignacio Lagoon, we witness another spectacular water wonder. Have you ever seen a dolphin surfing? Here they are, having great sport, leaping through the waves created by our ship's plowing bow and coasting down the slopes of the water hills. This is dolphin body surfing, and it's as thrilling for us to watch as it must be for them to play. So much has been happening in just these first 4 days of our trip, that it really feels good just to relax and spend a little time before dusk contemplating the contrasting offerings of a coastal sea voyage. In calm and peaceful moments of solitude and silence, looking out over the deep surrounding waters, we thank God for His infinite creation, and at the same time for the special blessings of interacting with other wondrous creatures in His living world. A fitting ending to this day of many marvels is provided by the glory of a brightly colored sun setting in the west directly over the Pacific Ocean. There's something special about a sunset at sea, with a golden orb dropping below the watery horizon and appearing to disappear into the extinguishing wetness of the ocean itself. During the night, our ship continues to move southward toward another of Baja California's fabled lagoons, Bahia Magdalena, which is shielded from the ocean by a long, uninhabited desert island with open sea entrances to the bay at both north and south ends. As we arise in the morning of the fifth day, we see that we have passed through the southern opening to the lagoon and are approaching the dock at a small Mexican fishing port on the mainland opposite Magdalena Island. This is our trip's port of entry to Mexico, and the staff handles our passports and other papers as we pass informally through the local customs station. We're docked alongside a variety of fishing vessels, some very old, and there appears to be a substantial resident population of pelicans, parked alone and in groups all over the place. Pelicans have an awkward look when perched on some stationary object, but when they take to the air, they can be surprisingly graceful. Leaving the dock with its colorful assortment of vessels, our group enjoys a leisurely stroll through the small town. Our walk is observed by a high-soaring frigate bird, whose elegant grace and sharp-angled beauty stand out strikingly against the blue sky. The name of the town we are visiting is San Carlos. It's the port for a major agricultural area, and for the most part it is a well-kept little community with homes and schools, storage plants and fields. On the outskirts of town we are shown an extremely rare ground-crawling cactus plant.
This is the creeping devil cactus, and this is one of the few places in Baja where it still occurs. Most of its natural habitat has been destroyed by cultivation.
Along the beach, away from the dock, we observe many birds, including a large flock of marbled godwits, long-beaked and long-legged shore feeders, looking like overgrown sandpipers. We also pass pieces of fish hung out to dry in the sun. Back on our ship for more water wandering, we move through one of the favorite calving grounds of the gray whales.